Welcome to HoopSpeak Live, Finals Edition, third week of finals. We had finals prep, finals beginning, and now we're in the meat of it. 3-1 series lead for the Heat because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this obscure web show who don't know that the Heat are up 3-1. With me today is Ethan Sherwood-Strauss. Zach Harper is not with us, but we do have a different Zach. We have Zach Lowe in the building. Figuratively speaking, the internet building. And we're also going to have Howard Beck and Daily Thunder's own Royce Young. So great show. We're going to have a ton of information. But first, I think we need to get something really important out of the way. And when I was in the Bay Area last weekend, dragged me. I don't think, really do not think that this is hype. The greatest boondoggles. Care to comment?
Look, I just wanted to show you the pupusa. It's a delightful El Salvadorian dish. It is great after a night of carousing, I shall put it, at 3 a.m. to go down to the Mission District, the heart of the Mission District of San Francisco, and dine on some pupusas. I was just trying to show you a decent time in the Bay Area. I didn't know that we would get trapped there for over an hour. I didn't know that the friend who invited us there, who was just wanting to be near his apartment, that was his agenda, and that he would show up an hour later. I didn't know these things, Beckley. I'm blameless, and look, I apologize. What can I say, man?
Well, that's how you describe it. Yeah, let me give the description to everyone else who wasn't there. So we're having a great time. We're like hanging out sort of by my hotel, which is very convenient for me because I don't have a car. I don't want to take the bus, subway, whatever. And we decide that we're going to go to this other neighborhood, which I assume is like, I don't know, around the corner or something. But, this girl has a car, so she'll just drive us, and then we'll go pick up fast food because that's the only kind of food you get at 3 a.m. And we'll eat quickly, and that'll be the end of the night. Great time. No, it's like a 20-minute drive. It's like on the entire other side of town. We get there. It's like bright fluorescent lights, like weird, doesn't like, I don't know, like Argentinian B-League soccer on TV. Bunch of families sitting around. What were the families doing there at 3 a.m.? Side question.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
We ended up waiting an hour for your friend who really wanted to go, who stopped and got in a party bus and then didn't show up and then acted completely unremorseful when he got there. And then I threw up like 5 hours later. I threw up every bit of that pupusa when I woke up in the morning. I woke up, I didn't even feel hungover or anything. You just fed me toxic whatever that was. I probably shouldn't have gotten the pork pupusa. I will cop to that much. But that was a terrible, terrible way to end an otherwise fun night.
Did the pupusa look different upon its reconstitution? I mean,
no.
That's the real question.
Absolutely not.
My friend Carlos
the
Rojas.
digestive system had performed nothing in that time.
Carlos Rojas is a loyal HoopSpeak reader, and I feel like he earned that. I feel like he earned what he did to us. And that makes it okay we're even. He's read every article we've ever done, so he earned that.
Okay, yeah, some of the stuff I've put up there probably earned me a trip before the porcelain god. Anyway, also the NBA Finals are happening, and the Thunder need to figure out how to guard LeBron James. One of the interesting theories... This is just a classy segue, right? One of the interesting theories that I've seen is putting Ibaka on him. This is something that I thought about a little before the series, and Brett Coromainos actually just did a post that's on HoopSpeak right now that offers some interesting insight into the kind of player LeBron is and why a big guy might bug him. What do you think about the idea?
Here's what I think. I don't think it would work, but I think that whatever else they've tried hasn't. So it's kind of a why not scenario to me. I see it going like LeBron would throw him a few pump fakes, and it would look like the pump fakes that he threw at Petrus in the series before, where there would be foul, foul, foul. But at the same time, the Thunder just don't have the means to guard LeBron James. They have two guys who have pipe cleaner frames in Kevin Durant and Thabo Sefolosha. And then they have James Harden, who I want to ask Zach Lowe about this, compared to one of those cows in Jurassic Park getting fed to T-Rex. And so it's just a bad situation. So why not go with Ibaka? I don't think it would work, but why not?
Well, and to be clear, I don't think anyone... Well, I'm not suggesting that you put Ibaka on LeBron James for 43 minutes or even for
That's exactly what you suggested.
Minutes. But I will say this. Do we all forget already Brandon Bass looking surprisingly able to guard LeBron? And I think that we underestimate how much LeBron uses his strength rather than his speed. He would rather be under control using his strength than sprinting full speed using his speed. And that's, I think, a change that's happened over his career. You know, back in those Pistons, when he had that huge run against the Pistons, those were all, you know, hard line drives to the basket. LeBron isn't like a change of direction guy, which is what really gives big guys problems. He's a get an angle and crush it with a big shoulder. And I think that people are discounting what someone with Serge's athleticism could do in limited opportunities and throw off his rhythm by mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that? I wrote about it a bit, but Bass was on LeBron at the end of Game 7, and it was almost a flashpoint for media criticism of Doc Rivers. And he was saying, they were saying, oh my God, how could you do that? How could you put Bass on James? Because everybody remembered in semi-transition, James kind of lulled him to sleep and blurred by and just had this thrilling dunk. But apart from that, he did a great job in that game.
He did that to Pierce, too.
On LeBron. He did that to everybody. And, you know, like LeBron had that crazy deep three on Bass. That resulted from Bass cutting him off twice, I believe. And that wasn't a good shot. That's the kind of shot that you want. And then he missed 2 jumpers after it. So I thought it was interesting that people were saying that this was obviously a bad idea, because I agree with you. I think that you want a stronger player with how LeBron is playing now to guard LeBron. And Bass might have been the most able guy, as crazy as it sounds, on the Celtics to take him, because Pierce didn't look like he was doing too well, as evidenced by what happened in that Game 5. Game 6, I believe.
Well, I think also you have to consider the alternative here, right? Like, obviously, if you could put Thabo on him at all times, you know, that's probably the best bet. I think Thabo does a good job of fronting him. Durant, if Durant could front him, could do good things. But why have Harden guarding him instead of Ibaka? Like, Harden, as you say, that's 2 points or a wide open shot every single time. Like, Harden just has no ability to stop him. At least Ibaka could play like 10 feet off him, give him open jumpers, and if he drives, contest at the rim. You might foul every once in a while, but what's happening right now is not sustainable. And for people to suggest that because Ibaka isn't a great fit, he's not a better fit than Harden, I think is missing the point.
You can't have a worse fit than Harden. I think that's the point that we do agree on here. That just does not work. And I think that there's a lot of complaining about the reffing in this series. As I think, I don't want to be Mr. Miami Heat guy, but I think that there is an element of a lot of people hate the Heat, so there's a lot of confirmation bias because you have a lot of people rooting against them and noticing when a call goes in their favor. But what else do you expect? You have 2 scrawny guys guarding him and James Harden. James is going to get to the line. That's going to happen. They don't have the right tools, so it's not surprising to me. And yeah, I just feel badly for James. I think we just all feel badly for James Harden at this point. It's tough to watch. He's one of my favorite players. It's brutal.
Yeah, Sebastian Puidi wrote about how on offense, I think he's also looked uncharacteristically hesitant. You know, he came off this screen towards the end of Game 4, had all kinds of space in front of him, and I think the Heat's big men are in his head because they haven't been fouling him, and they're really pinching together and making that Euro step move, or where he just basically runs right into the guy and then throws it up, have kind of taken those away, and Battier is chasing him off the three-point line. And I don't know. I mean, I think Harden had like 17 points in the first half of Game 3, so it's not like he can't figure it out, but he really looked rattled, and, you know, I think that having to guard LeBron doesn't help.
No, would you say that with that early pinch in that the Heat are doing to Harden what the Thunder did to Tony Parker? Is it a similar approach in your estimation? You're more of a whiteboard guy than I am, so I'm curious right there as to how you'd assess that. Pop quiz.
I think it's actually a lot like what the Celtics do to Wade that gives Wade so much trouble, which is kind of wall off that 15-foot range. Like, they don't wait for Wade to get in the paint to go get him. They make that kind of mid-range area awkward and force him to pull up from 16 or 17 instead of, making his move at 8 or 9 feet and then stepping around and laying in. So that's what I would draw a comparison to more. I think the Thunder what the Thunder did with Tony Parker was just, allow him to drive, but smother him with his length inside. And that was a big problem for Parker. And then switching with Ibaka and using that. Ibaka can't guard James on the perimeter, but he can switch and shut down Manu Ginobili, so whatever. I don't know. LeBron isn't wiggly. This is a great phrase that Dustin Gray... I've got okay, I should also state at the outset, it is 95 degrees in my apartment right now. It's over 100 outside in New York. It's people are actually going to go crazy tonight. I am staying inside to watch the game because this is the sort of weather that famously turns normal people into insane creatures of the night. So I'm going to try to watch out for that. But to hop back, LeBron, the way LeBron moves isn't like Chris Paul or like a Derrick Rose or someone who's really shifty laterally side to side, or even Kobe Bryant, who's kind of got those little wiggly moves. Like, LeBron is a power player fundamentally, and while he's a very fast power player, I think that countering power for power is better than trying to match him with speed at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with you, although we've seen a little bit of LeBron Euro step in of late. Usually his Euro step looks pretty bad. I think you've been quite critical of it. He pulled off a pretty good one, I believe, in the game before last one. I think that LeBron is just... It's odd. It's like LeBron's game is like aging, where it happens little by little, then all at once. It feels as though it's been building little by little, and suddenly in the playoffs there's a floater. Suddenly there's a Euro step. Suddenly there's a post game. And maybe that's just because we're paying more attention to it because it's the playoffs, but it really does feel sudden. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think LeBron is it's one of those mother of invention issues here where he is making the plays he has to make, and he has it every round. And that's what's so cool about the playoffs is, and same thing for Westbrook, right? Like, Westbrook is playing in a way that he hadn't played earlier because he had to, and you get pushed in different ways in the playoffs. And as a fan, it's so awesome to see these guys, have to come up with something more, like Westbrook did in Game 4. You're chatting me right now. Where we're gonna try a little game here. I haven't been following the trades. I have to admit, I've been focusing on the finals. But you, Anthony Davis's mother hen at large, have been following anything that has to do with the Hornets. Explain to me what's going on, and I will give you an interpretive facial expression to let you know how I feel about it.
Well, you do know what's essentially going on, which is that the Hornets traded Ariza and Okafor to the Wizards to essentially free up cap space. I don't care about the Wizards.
Okay,
your
heard
old
something
team.
About that.
They're screwed. They have way too much in salary. Maybe mom was just playing a pop-up ad in my ear. Sorry about that, everybody. So we don't care. I don't care about that. I just care about the Hornets and their potential. Their potential moves. Number one that I like is that they amnesty Jared Jack, they signed Darren Williams, and combine Eric Gordon, Darren Williams, and Anthony Davis. Facial expression, go.
That's a good one. I like that. I like that team. Is that at all realistic, though? I don't see them amnestying Jack. They love Jack. Jack and Monty Williams are boys.
Yeah, it's hard, but everybody loves Jack, but everyone kicks Jack to the curb. He's like the nice boyfriend. He's the nice boyfriend who keeps getting rejected. Everyone has just great things to say about him as they're cutting him, as they're trading him. Yeah, sending him to Toronto. Yeah, this is just the fate
He's
of
a
a
really
Jared Jack.
nice guy, It's just it wasn't there. Yeah, I don't know. But I wish him the best. I mean, he's gonna make someone really happy as a backup point guard at some point.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be a great assist coach for someone down the line. My next scenario.
Well, I want to get your facial. Okay, good. Hit me.
Okay, next fanciful scenario would be they do that amnesty, they get Williams for a reasonable contract. And then in the next year, when they really have even more cap room opened up than they would have this year, they bring on Dwight Howard. So Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, Deron Williams. What say you?
That's my reaction. That would be terrible. Would anybody ever score with those two? Actually, that's like a serious question. Would they hold teams like 65 points a game? That would be terrifying.
I want to see it. I badly want to see it. That will not happen. I have really some competence concerns when it comes to the Hornets. This is a great trade for them, but Benson has just been throwing in Saints guys from the who've been suspended by the NFL for Bounty Gate, and just stuffing the front office with those guys. So I'm a little concerned about big moves like that actually happening. Okay, but how about this? This is kind of realistic. It would be hard to sell the principle on it. What if this is how they spend their money? They sign KG
Chris Paul
to a 1 or 2 year contract.
Ooh.
KG, not CP3. Kevin Garnett, because his contract's up, and you have Kevin Garnett and Anthony Davis work the paint next year. What does your face say to that?
I have to think about that one. That's crazy. I mean, obviously Garnett would never, ever in a million years do that. I think he's playing at Boston or he's retiring is kind of the feeling. But how great would it be for Davis to have that mentor, to teach him to be a crazy... I don't know. Actually, interesting. Would Davis like KG as a mentor? KG has typically mentored guys who suck. Anthony Davis is going to be great. Is that a problem?
I don't know. I think he's coachable. I'm not sure. Although he did seem a little bit cocky. A glory boy, as Craig Easterbrook calls players who are confident in their skills, which I think is everybody, on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. So maybe it'd be an issue. You know what I find interesting about this is that Davis, I believe that he's going to be on Team USA this summer just because there are no other options. They have no shot blockers at all. It's just everyone is injured or isn't showing up. So don't you think that Davis is essentially going to be auditioning for the Hornets? He's going to be not auditioning for his job with the Hornets, but auditioning to perhaps bring on Deron Williams, to perhaps bring on Chris Paul in the future, or another big free agent. This is his chance to say, I'm ready now.
How great would it be if they got Chris Paul back? That would be the funniest. That would be like a blah. Like that would be so. I mean, maybe he should. If Davis comes out and is actually as good as everyone thinks, and they have Gordon, like that, you could make a very good argument that is the better team to play for Paul. It would just, you can't even imagine that happening.
I mean, here's the hypothetical. If Chris Paul was a free agent right now, do you think that he'd sign with them, or do you think if given the choice, Clippers or Hornets? Would Chris Paul choose the Hornets? I feel like that would be the smarter choice. What say you?
Well, I think he would stick in LA because he likes it there. I mean, I think he's very happy to be in Los Angeles. From everything I've read and seen, like he loves New Orleans, but he did not expect to like LA as much as he has. But he is like really, really enjoyed it, and it sucks to move. I just moved, like $1,000 worth of personal possessions, 4 hours up in a U-Haul, and it was terrible. I actually have had multiple dreams in which I'm moving. Like, that's how bad it is. I was like, and it was a fine move. It was nothing bad about it. It's just still so traumatizing. I can't imagine turning around a year later if you're Paul and if you've got a young family and being like, oh, heading back up, circle the wagons, here we go.
I think you can hire somebody to help with that in a way that we cannot. I think that Chris Paul can just snap his fingers and get somebody to... He's not like me driving back and forth between the Oakland apartment I was at and the current one where I'm going in at 2 a.m. and putting boxes on my back and sweating. I don't think that Chris Paul is going to do that. So I think moving, look, I'm with you. I am with you. Moving, it's tough. It sucks. It's not fun. But it might be worth throwing alley-oops to Anthony Davis, who, by the way, I believe can hit a pick-and-pop jumper probably before Blake Griffin can.
All right, well, prediction no one will follow up on from Ethan Sherwood-Strauss. In the meantime, we've got someone I'm very happy to bring back to the show. Always a pleasure, always a crackling wit and razor-sharp analysis from the Daily Thunder, Royce Young. Royce, come on out.
I didn't get my person of interest thing there. Where's the full intro?
You know, I didn't blame Anthony Bain, who I think you just talked to, because he wanted me to reuse your old ones, and I didn't have time to go find them, and it's actually my fault, but I'm gonna schluff it on down the line. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. I mean, hanging in there, trying to get through the day, trying to convince myself that the NBA doesn't mean that much, and that sports are really kind of stupid, and I don't really care, and I really and truly, I'm just thinking about, how good it would be to have a couple months to relax, and the earlier this gets over with, the better it'll be for everybody. So, I mean, I'm good.
This is interesting because you're you're like a major dude, and but you never hide your Thunder love. Like, you never, don't make it a secret how much this team, you enjoy watching them, how much you care about their success. When you're kind of around these national media guys who maybe don't have the same dog in the fight, is that weird? You're in Miami right now, correct?
Right. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I try to hide it. I mean, I try to make sure that everybody, it's like you kind of forget that like things that you write and things that you say on Twitter, everybody else can see, especially if they follow you. And so, like, when I want to gripe about a bad call on Kevin Durant or whatever, like, I really do try to shield myself to some degree, just to try to keep an ounce of credibility out there in the world. But I mean, to me, I'm the type, I take the approach of like, I live in Oklahoma City. I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life. I'm very clearly a Thunder fan. I want this team to win. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I mean, yeah, I'm going to try to be objective, especially some of the more like national stuff I write. I'm going to try to pretend that, I'll put on my journalist hat and play it a little bit more straight-laced. But I mean, I want them to win, and I'm not going to lie about it. I think that I've always thought that it's almost better to reveal your bias and let everybody judge you from that point on than to try to hide it and kind of lie to people about it.
I would agree with that. Royce Young, model of new journalism. I was wondering, you brought up the calls and Durant. I think that in that, I believe it was Game 4, you could certainly... No, Game 3, you could certainly quibble with a few of those, at least two, even though it might have been borderline. I wonder, in the more macro sense, do you think that the Thunder haven't gotten the benefit of officiating, or that the Heat have, or that Kevin Durant call with Dwayne Wade, that was just a flashpoint that everybody fixated on? What's your assessment of that situation?
I think it's over the top to say that the officiating has been unfair, and that's me again being completely 100% biased and homer-tastic here. But I don't think it's been like that crazy over the top. I do think that Game 3, to me, that was the most egregious officiating, was just the specific calls on Durant. I thought the first one that Joey Crawford called on Durant, where he just jab-stepped him, that was one of the worst calls I've seen in the playoffs in a couple of years. Because, I mean, that's a move that Durant has used for 4 years now. I mean, if you're going to call that foul, then you basically have opened up yourself to an incredible amount of fouls that you probably should be calling. So, to me, to add on ticky-tack fouls to a guy that has such a major impact in, obviously the biggest games of the season is pretty weak. Other than I think there was really just 2 Durant fouls that I had a big problem with. the jab step one, and then the one where he got sandwiched between Chris Bosh and LeBron and was called for a foul. The foul on Wade where he pump faked him, that's Durant's fault for getting in the air. It probably wasn't a foul, but I understand why it's called. Same thing when he swiped at LeBron on the fast break. But, overall, it's basketball, and, when you come out on the losing end, you want to be able to look for excuses. You want to say it's Scott Brooks' fault, or you want to say it's the official's fault, or you want to say it's somebody's fault, and it's always easy to do that. And I wouldn't say the Thunder they just haven't played well enough to win. They've played well enough to ignore all officiating questions. They played well enough to where the officials shouldn't have mattered.
I think that I like your take on the Durant fouls. I thought that one or two of them definitely are like 50-50 calls that you would expect Durant to. I mean, Durant gets calls. Like, I don't think that's a secret in the league. Like, he's a great job of drawing fouls and of not getting. I mean, he averages very low fouls. And I was wondering. I mean, I'm of the mind that he is a better person to guard LeBron than maybe almost anyone on the roster, and that I went back and looked at all those fouls. Only two of them were on LeBron in the half court.
Right. And
really only one of them was something where, like, LeBron made a move and he tried to get in front of him and couldn't. Do you think that the Durant foul issue being connected to LeBron is overblown, or is that really not the reason why they're trying to keep him from him?
I mean, I think that that's one of the reason that they're trying to keep him from him is because they've seen what's happened when he gets 5 fouls. But I'm totally with you. I think that has been completely overblown. Of people saying, look what LeBron's doing to Durant. You got to get Durant off LeBron. He's putting so many fouls on him. I mean, like you said, in Game 3, only one foul came in the half court with Durant defending LeBron, and it was on that screen with Bosh. The other one was Durant was caught in transition, and he swiped at him, and then another one, Durant tried to take a silly charge on LeBron. I mean, that's just basketball. You get matched up crosswise. Actually, in that second half of Game 3, Durant came out defending Mario Chalmers and Shane Battier, and really was off LeBron almost entirely. And so, I think that that's completely overblown. I don't think that Durant defending LeBron, it's like LeBron's doing something magical to put Durant in foul trouble. I think it's just Scott Brooks trying to play it safe, trying to just say, okay, well, if Durant's going to be picking up fouls, let's get him off the guy that might potentially put those on him.
Transition into James Harden, there's been a lot of criticism of his play because, frankly, it hasn't been up to the level that he usually produces. And I think he's a really good player, and that it's almost overblown how this is changing the perception of him as a player. Do you think that this is bad luck? It's more bad luck in this series for him, or do you think that there's something about his game and Miami's skill level that it wilts a bit when scouted for so heavily over the course of a week? What say you to that?
Yeah, I mean, he's just been bad. I mean, there's no way around it. But, to me, I think it's in the same way that you can't drop a guy's draft stock necessarily for what he's done in the NCAA tournament. In the same way that you can't necessarily ignore all the great things James Harden has done throughout the whole season, the playoffs. I mean, remember that Game 4 where the Thunder closed out the Mavericks? Harden scored 15 points in the fourth quarter, 29, completely took the thing over. He was great in the Spurs series. I mean, you can't just ignore it just by a couple bad games. I mean,
he's had good halves against Miami.
Yeah. I mean, he scored 21 in Game 2 and looked really good. It's just, Harden's getting the same number of shots he normally takes. He's taken about 9 to 12. He's just not necessarily making them. I think the Heat do deserve some credit. I mean, I had somebody within the organization trying to tell me at practice yesterday. He was like, it's not James's fault. It's just the Heat are doing an incredible job of trapping him. And while that's true, I mean, James Harden's a good enough player where he can break through a trap. And, I mean, it's not like the Heat have devised some incredible defensive game plan to suddenly stop James Harden here. He's just not making shots. He's not finishing. He's a little bit I think he's a little bit tense. He's a little bit indecisive with some of the decisions that he's made with the ball in the pick and roll. I mean, he's better than this, and the Thunder have got to have him play better if they have any dreams of coming back.
Right, and that's kind of the interesting position that Scott Brooks is in, is if Harden just plays a little better, if a couple more jumpers fall, they're right in this series and maybe leading this series. And honestly, maybe sweep this series. Like, that's how close these teams are, is that a lot of, little things either way end up making a huge difference, because it's, you don't get any points for only losing by one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you think that Brooks is going to make any significant adjustments, and do you have any hints as to what those might be?
I don't know if that they can necessarily do anything that drastic at this point, because both teams know who each other are. They know what they do. They know what they want to do. And to me, I mean, Brooks can tinker with his rotations. Granted, I'm the biggest Nick Collison fan in the world, so of course I think he needs more minutes. But
Woo!
I just don't understand
Team
why Nick
Collison
hasn't played very many minutes.
Dude, Becky's jealous.
And he's been really productive. He's been so productive though in the series.
Yeah.
But he's
caught Wade at the rim on that block. That was insane. He's so active.
Yeah, I know. I had to towel off after that one. That was that was pretty good. But I mean, I would say that the only thing Brooks can really do dramatically is maybe just tinker around with some of the rotations that he's using, because I don't think that there's anything that genius that you can do. I mean, you're limited to the personnel that you have, the players that you have, and the matchups that you have to put out on the court. And I think I wrote it yesterday, at a certain point, your players, they really do just have to play. And, coach can only get so much credit for sending a guy to the scorer's table, while Russell Westbrook's going to have heaps of praise thrown on him for a huge dunk, or Durant with a huge three. And so I don't know what else Scott Brooks can really do other than maybe tell his guys to do better than they are.
That should be a rousing pregame speech. Thanks a lot for coming on, Royce. We always appreciate it.
Do better than you are. Thanks, Royce.
No problem.
I felt like that was sort of directed at us when he yelled that.
I felt that.
He's asking us to do better? Anyway, we'll try to do better with our next guest, who comes to me from across New York, over in Manhattan. Sports Illustrated's Zach Lowe. Let's bring him right on out.
Dun, dun, dun.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Great to have you back on. It feels like it's been too long.
It has been too long. I do keep track of appearances and how many times Handsome Tom Haberstroh has been on, and Paul Flannery has made a lot of appearances, and Howard Beck lives on this show, and I hope to bring some entertainment value.
All right, well, I do. I hope you do too. One thing you wrote about today was OKC possibly fronting in the post, something that Miami has done a ton of throughout the postseason to take away threats very much like James, guys like Paul Pierce and Carmelo Anthony, who like that same kind of mid-post area. Do they need to go big to front him, or is Harden or Cephalosha, are they big enough to handle that?
I don't know. I think Cephalosha could probably do it. Harden's dicey. He's just such a size disadvantage. I think Cephalosha could do it. And I think the idea that you guys have been talking about maybe Ibaka, maybe Collison gets a shot at him just to see what happens, just to
right.
Just to see if he's throwing off a little bit. And you're right that Brandon Bass, for at least a little while, threw him in the Celtics series until the last quarter of Game 7, where he just figured out what to do and torched the Celtics completely. So
right.
It'll be interesting. But I was listening to Royce, and I do agree with him that there isn't some sort of magic massive adjustment. I just think you have to try a few little things, and if one of them works, you stick with that for a while, and most likely nothing will work, but we'll see.
Yeah, LeBron is one of those guys who, at this point, if you give him any one look over and over, he'll solve it. But I think that what I would predict the Thunder do is every 2 or 3 possessions try to get a new defender on him, a new look, double sometimes, don't double sometimes, just really try to make it confusing, because if there's a pattern, he'll solve it. And it's almost like just throwing random crap at him because he's so cerebral and he likes to think it through so much, can be the best option.
Yeah, I like what you said about if there's a riddle that you just give him the same riddle over and over again, he'll solve it, because before, even in the first quarter of Game 4, like those plays where he posts up and they clear everyone to the other side of the floor are very difficult spacing-wise because all those guys are bunched up together. And Miami is good. Miami's guys are good at sort of creatively spacing themselves out. But for a while in Game 3 and Game 4, he was having trouble finding the right passing lanes, and Miami's guys were having trouble creating the right passing lanes. And then late in the first quarter, when I think Norris Cole hit that three and then Miller got a good look at a three that he missed, all of a sudden something clicked, and he figured out, if I hold the ball one beat longer or take an extra dribble in this direction or that direction, that does this to the defense, and then it was all over.
Zach, you had an observation before Game 4 that seemed to be quite prescient. I don't know. Either way, that the Thunder were essentially leaving Mario Chalmers alone, and that he could have a big game. When you saw what happened in Game 5, was there just this overwhelming feeling of smug coming over you, or did you feel like your observation had come to the fore? What was your response and reaction to that?
I am not going to lie. I wanted people to remember that I had said that, but I also.
No one remembers anything on.
No one remembers anything. No. But I also have to say it didn't unfold quite the way that I thought it was going to in terms of the looks that he got. I mean, some of them were the looks that I expected him to get. Some of them were more he got the ball kicked out to him and did some stuff off the dribble that were really nice plays that he made. And then part of it was he missed his first 3 shots, and I was like, oh my god, if anyone remembers this prediction, I'm going to be such a fool. So it was a combination of things. But really, someone said this to me on Twitter. They basically were like, when people started retweeting that tweet, someone was like, it didn't take a genius to realize that Mario Chalmers was going to be wide open the entire game, and that is true.
Such humility. I'm wondering. Hollinger had a piece today where he said that much of the difference in the series, if not the entire difference, is three-point shooting and some luck on three-pointers. A lot of what we're focusing on seems to be what the Thunder could do better, how they're getting killed with James Harden guarding LeBron, who I think you compared to a certain quadrupedal animal getting fed to T-Rex. What I'm wondering is, do you subscribe to that notion that the difference in the series is essentially luck? And that's why the Heat are up 3-1, or do you think that the Heat have played better than the Thunder?
I mean, I think the teams are very even, as the scoring margin would show, and in a series this even, every little thing matters. I mean, it's a cliche to say that, but every possession matters, and luck matters, schemes matter. Every little thing you can do to tip the balance, either intentionally or by accident, matters. And I do think that no one Hollinger has been at the forefront of this for years. Like, nobody wants to say that luck is important in sports. There has to be an explanation for everything. So I mean, James Harden, right. There's 1 3 that James Harden missed in Game 4 that I'm thinking of. I don't know if it was a broken play or something, but he was just, nobody was within 10 feet of him, and he missed it. The Cephalosha threes I think are more interesting because he's shooting so badly. And everyone says, he shot 44% from three-point range this year. He only took 71 threes, and he's been a horrible three-point shooter his entire career. So I think the Cephalosha stuff we may be seeing, as Shane Battier would say, a regression to the mean. But yeah, I mean, Harden particularly has missed great looks, and Durant has missed good looks too.
Yep. Yeah, and Harden especially, I think he had like 1 or 2 that were in and out, and then threw that one that was right on line and just went off the back rim, and so it's not like Cephalosha where you look at him, you're like, whoa, those mechanics look all wrong.
Right.
Harden is just not dropping in. Along those lines, I had a really interesting question over GChat with Anthony Macri, who's a player development coach, and he asked me, if these two teams had 50 games in Miami, 50 games in Oklahoma City, how many would each team win, do you think? I have a follow-up there.
Out of the full 100?
Out of the full 100, how many would Miami win?
I think Miami probably would win a 100-game series by somewhere like 55-45 maybe in the high 50s even. But I think it would be close. I mean, you talk about, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start talking about like 60-40, that's a huge difference in terms of that team is significantly better than the other team. So I think like 55-45, something
funny,
like that.
I said 55 too. And then he said on a neutral court, if they played 100 games on a neutral court, would that change your answer?
No.
Really? Because to me, the Thunder's home court advantage is legit.
I mean, I think it's legit. It's certainly more legit than Miami's home court advantage. But I mean, the games, regardless of where they are, have been close. I mean, it's not like the Thunder have wilted on the road in the playoffs. They've been not a great road team, but a good one, good enough. They won in San Antonio. They've come close to winning in Miami. They won in Dallas and Los Angeles, obviously. I think the Thunder are just really, really good, and that the Heat might just be a tiny, tiny bit better primarily because I think they just bring a defense that the Thunder is just not accustomed to.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk. Of course, when one team beats the other team, it means that team is great and the other team is awful. We all know that. That's just sports 101. I'm wondering, I mean, speaking of the small margin of difference, you've noticed what Brooks is doing with the big lineups and Perkins. Do you think that could perhaps account for the difference in this series, and that the Thunder could potentially be up if Perkins, and specifically those two big lineups, weren't employed so often?
I mean, in a literal sense, yes. The Thunder, I think, are minus 17. The Thunder's starting lineup is minus 17 in a series in which the margin is minus 5 from the Thunder's perspective, and that matters. But I again was listening to what Royce says about all the criticism of Brooks, and we have this, especially in the playoffs, this sort of instant armchair analysis of why does this lineup with the 3 stars and Cephalosha and Ibaka not play more? Well, why is Collison not playing more? And you look at his choices. I mean, he's got 3 big men, neither of whom bring any sort of consistent combination of offense and defense. He's got, without Eric Maynor, who I think is a loss that not enough people are talking about, for the extra guard in those small lineups, he's got to choose between Derek Fisher, who stinks but can make a corner 3, and Cephalosha, who can play defense but is being completely ignored by the opposing defense on the under end of the floor. I mean, these are imperfect choices, and he tries his best, I think, to feel the rhythm of each game. He played Collison extended minutes in the only game that they won in this series. He just rolled with that lineup, and I do think he should have played Collison more in Game 4, and there's no real explanation for why he didn't. But these are not easy choices, and they're imperfect choices, and I think Ibaka is the kind of guy, and I've tweeted this many times because it drives me crazy, the Ibaka obsession. It's like, if Ibaka is really the second best defensive player in the league, really, and he has a jump shot, either Scott Brooks is the worst coach in the NBA, or that impression of Ibaka is wrong if he's playing 26, 27, 28 minutes a game. Something is off there, and I think it's that Ibaka is not as good at what he is supposed to be good at as people think. Particularly, look at his rebounding numbers; they're terrible, and I think Brooks is afraid to play him as the only big man, and I think that fear is more justified than some of the critics would say.
Yeah, I think so too. He is a little bit wild. Speaking of critics, is it possible? Have we gone with Russell Westbrook to a place where it's just impossible to have a rational conversation about him, where we can both say this kid is incredible, this player is incredible. He's one of the best, probably 10 players in the league. I mean, right in that discussion, and he also makes bad decisions that hurt his team. I don't see why both aren't possible. It seems like we've come to a place in him, though, where the rhetoric has gotten so outsized that we can't acknowledge that sometimes he has room for growth.
I have given up on the entire idea of having a rational conversation about anything in the NBA ever, because you're totally right. I mean, it's just, except for when you get people who really study the game and watch film and cover the game and talk to people and know it's just screaming. The blog comments are just endless howling and screaming, and everything is black or white, and it just isn't so. And if you just watch the game and you rewatch the game and you do stuff that admittedly fans don't have time to do, they're not like us. We do this for a living. It's our job to watch a game a couple of times, or to watch film at least. And it's all there. I mean, he makes 6 or 7 bad decisions a game, and sometimes they're not even just actively bad decisions. He has a 1 second window to hit Durant off that pin down screen, and then the window closes, and he'll miss that window sometimes. And that's not even what people are talking about. They're just talking about the out of control layup, or the jumper he takes from 20 feet when they're, if you look again, there's 2 seconds on the shot clock and no one is doing anything, and 3 of the other 4 Thunder players on the floor contribute nothing offensively, and someone has to shoot. So, there is room for many things in the discussion of a complicated sport. And I agree with you. I think he is one of the 10 best players in the league, and I thought very hard about putting him in the 5th spot on my fake MVP ballot this year that I think I ultimately gave to Tony Parker. I mean, I think he's a great, great player.
I have a follow-up, a different topic, although I was just distracted by Sebastian Pruiti writing, "I have a man crush on Zach right now" in the chat. I just wanted to read that one aloud. I'm wondering, I just wanted your quick reaction to this wild Wizards Hornets trade, and what are the Wizards doing? That's number one. And number two, do you think the Hornets are preparing for a big move, say getting Deron Williams, or is this just, I don't know, saving some money in the future?
I think the Hornets are preparing to put themselves in position to possibly make a big move in the next couple of years. I don't think they have a particular one in mind. And the math on the amnesty Jack sign Williams is tight. I mean, they might need Williams to take a small discount once you factor in all the cap holds and things like that. But it's certainly doable, and other players have taken small discounts before. I just think they want a clean sheet. I think they want to look at the young players, particularly their young big men, for more extended minutes. And I think that they have no problem being horrible again next year and making a run at another top draft pick. And look, the Hornets are exciting. I think the Hornets are going to be an exciting team. I can't wait to watch Anthony Davis. Monty Williams is one of the best young coaches in the league, and they just dumped salary, and that's all they did. And there's no sort of magic to it.
It's disappointing. What would you say the odds are of my pipe dream scenario of potentially Dwight Howard and Deron Williams in 2014? What would you put the odds at, percentage-wise? Just indulge me.
Between 0 and 4%.
Whoa, 4.
There's a chance.
4 is pretty high. Look, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But remember, this is. I was talking to someone with the team yesterday. We were talking about this trade and the grand plans of the Hornets, and he was saying, remember, everyone's going to talk about. He said the Hornets are going to win the press conference on this trade by a landslide. They're going to win the blogs and they're going to win the press conference because everybody loves cap space. Remember, the last superstar free agent to deal with them wanted to get the hell out of there as soon as he could. And I think that's true. I mean, we don't have any record of this market drawing free. We don't have any record of most markets drawing any big name free agents. So I would pump the brakes on that a little bit. But certainly, I mean, look, if Davis is as versatile as people are going to, position wise, as people think he might be in the NBA, if he can play the 4, or he can play alongside a true center, there's no reason why they won't chase Dwight or they won't chase Bynum, who's also a free agent next year. I mean, I think that's on the table for them.
Yeah, and Eric Gordon also very good. So it's not like they're. I mean, they could. They have. Davis and Gordon could be a 1-2 punch that is nibbling at the playoffs sooner rather than later. Yeah,
we got to see Eric Gordon healthy again for an extended stretch. But if he can be the Eric Gordon he was for the first 50 games of 2011 season, he's a legit top 20, 25 NBA player.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Once this season is all over and things settle down a little bit, let's go get a brew.
Absolutely, and enjoy the game tonight, guys.
All right, take it easy, Zach. All right, that was Zach Lowe from Sports Illustrated, and now we shift rather quickly to another heavy hitter from the New York Times, Howard Beck. How you doing, Howard? Well, we're a little frozen here. Oh, there he is. Is he? Not sure. It was working earlier when we tested.
You guys were frozen on my side.
Well, we're getting little twitches now. All right, can you? Okay, we're getting a little bit of audio. Can you hear us now? Oh man. Well, maybe we should just give this another shot in a minute. But in the meantime, if you check out, let me find a link to it in a second. It's definitely in the True Hoop Bullets, so you can go there. But Howard wrote a really interesting column today on LeBron James and on the things that have changed in his life. And I'm curious, because it does seem that things have changed, and yet part of me always wants to say you can't know what really is impacting the mental side of a guy. Maybe it's just that he's had more experience and he feels more comfortable. Maybe off the court things. Maybe he is more at peace. It's hard. It's hard for me to figure out where to land because LeBron does look like a different person. But I'm also wondering if they weren't up 3-1, if the situation was reversed and they were down 1-3, would I notice it and would I care?
Well, the conversation about him is so outsized and ridiculous. When he was down 3-2, or when the Heat were down 3-2 against the Celtics, there was this huge narrative of LeBron's failure again, and it was very negative, and it was preparing for doom. And then 2 games later, it's all about how he's conquered the demons and he has a different look. His averages in that playoff series were the same before the 2 final games as they were after the 2 final games. That 45-15 one and the one that followed, roughly. Hey, it was said on Hang Up and Listen. I stole that from then. Josh Levine cannot be wrong, so this has to be correct.
There's no way that 45 points would not throw off a 2-game average. All right, but go ahead.
No, but I'm saying that, 2 games later, the averages were roughly where they were, before those 2 games. I don't know. This is a whole digression and derailing, but basically I'm saying that we reverse engineer these things often, and I like how Ryan Russillo says, to steal from somebody else, winning is overrated in sports. It's overrated. We make a huge deal after the fact of why somebody was different, and I don't necessarily think that LeBron James has a different look or looks like a different person. I think he's playing differently, and that matters. Like his post game is there, and that is the difference, and not some sort of mental change, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah, it's hard because it's not like he changed physically. So it must be mental. Even if it's a skill thing that you just work and it becomes a new physical thing you can do, that's the connection you make. Is he hasn't gotten 5 pounds bigger. His brain must have gotten 5% stronger or smarter or more willful. It's weird. You know what else? This is a total tangent. But it just got me thinking of it because I wrote that post where I compared LeBron in Game 4 of the Heat series last year with Dallas. He played so poorly. He had 8 points. He looked terrible. He took 11 shots. And then I went and watched Game 4 again where he played magnificently. And the thing that stuck out to me more than anything else was how much better Dwayne Wade used to be. Holy moly, he was quicker. I mean, significantly. He had this play where they switched and Tyson Chandler was on him and he gave him a bunch of room and Wade just pounded it, gave him a hard crossover and went and dunked it, and Chandler had barely turned his hips. And this is a guy, Chandler's one of the best big men for those sorts of switches, and he was completely overmatched. And now you see Wade with a guy like Collison having trouble. I wonder if it's that he's just getting old. Maybe he put on 10 pounds in the offseason of muscle, and it's like Kobe when Kobe got too big and he needs to slim down a little bit. But it was really jarring.
Yeah, and it's especially jarring because you can see the former version of Wade playing against Wade now with Russell Westbrook. And I rewatched all those Westbrook plays because why did he only get 3 free throws was an issue. And what stuck out to me was just a few of the plays where he blew by Wade, and it was just a joke, where Westbrook wasn't getting fouled because Wade wasn't anywhere near him or in position to even foul him. And I did write about this with LeBron. I want to kind of throw it off you because we haven't talked much about LeBron in our private conversations, I don't think. Do you think that
I've just
this
been too
version
mad at
of
you for
LeBron-
making me throw up on pupusas.
I know. I'm sorry about that. That definitely occupied too large of a conversational space, but we'll move from it. Do you think that this version of LeBron is better than the version of LeBron at the end of 2009 who could just blow by everybody? Because that version of LeBron, I assure you, would just scream past Brandon Bass and wouldn't have any problem. This version is he has more of a diversified game, but he's less athletic. Do you think that he is better than the former version?
Less athletic? I don't know. Maybe slightly less. I mean, he's still so athletic. I don't know. I think this version is better because he's winning. No. I think he's better now because, as you say, he has, the ultimate for an NBA player is to have someone say he doesn't have a weakness. Right, that was what Dirk Nowitzki had, as you put in your post, in last year's playoffs. There was nothing you could do specifically that you could count on impacting his game. And I think that's kind of where we are with LeBron, which is, it's just really incredible. I mean, that's kind of like the pinnacle of what you want to be in the NBA. All right, we've got Howard Beck on one more time. We're going to give it another try. Howard, let's do it.
What's happening, guys?
Hey.
Yes.
All right,
Wow.
Cool. So you're on your hotel wireless in Miami.
Yeah.
Is everything working all right?
Yeah, you're moving. You're like live action now. Before it looked like you were just kind of it was like fathead versions of Beckley and Ethan.
Staring angrily at you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, let's talk about your column today and about LeBron James and his evolution. And you seem to feel, if I read your column correctly, that a real change has occurred here and that we're not just retroactively assigning difference because he's now winning. What do you see?
Well, it's funny. We only see what we see, right? The guy's, he's on the podium, he's on the court, he's off the court, he's back on the podium, or maybe he's in the locker room, whatever. So, case there, but so we mind read a bit and we project a bit. So let's asterisk or just qualify everything there. But doesn't he just look and sound a little bit different than the guy we saw and observed a year ago? And even the guy we sometimes saw in Cleveland. It just feels like this is a guy who, on the one hand, is taking his craft, his job, his mission very, very seriously, but not in a way where he's lost, his sense of humor or his humanity or his, there doesn't sound like there's any false bravado or there's just no artifice there. And I felt like there were times in Cleveland where, I felt like he projected an arrogance that preceded his accomplishments. And then he always just had this distance about him. Right now, when he was introspective, there was some sense of humor there, and I felt like there were, in previous years, we just didn't feel that connection to him. And, whether that's we the media, or we the fans, whatever it might have been. And in terms of the seriousness, in Cleveland, when, they were kind of acting as if they'd already accomplished it all, or as if everything was just going to come to them by manifest destiny. You had LeBron snapping fake photos of his teammates on the sideline, and he's doing the river dance and all this other stuff, and it seemed like I guess he was a little bit cavalier, you could say, about where he was headed. And it just seems like right now there's a combination of being both more serious but also being more relaxed. And that's the growth that you can see, or that we think we can see in what's observable, what's in front of us. So there's that part of it. The basketball part, we've all talked about ad nauseum, what he's done in terms of his game. He's more aggressive. He's a better player than he was. But I do also think that there's this sense there that he's ready for this moment in a way that maybe he wasn't in the past.
Scott Robb, whom I like quite a bit, he's a very talented writer, but can hardly be called an objective LeBron observer, said that he's acting magnanimous because it's easy to be so in victory, and the true measure is acting that way in defeat. Recently, he talked about how it was immaturity that he had that statement at the end of the finals last year about how people would have to go back to their lives, and that much ridiculed statement. Do you think that him saying that is just indicative of how it's easy to be magnanimous in defeat, or do you think that's representative of the new LeBron as we're talking about and the more mature guy? What say you to that?
You know, anybody at his level of pride sits up there yesterday in a live press conference and refers to himself as being immature twice. Without too much prompting. I mean, finals experience is basically. And what did you remember of 2007? And then this time last year when you were sitting up there, and he said, 2007 I was young, the Spurs swept us. I don't remember too much about it, and then he went straight to that moment after Game 6, and without me having even asked really specifically about his statement that night, we knew what he was talking about as soon as he said, he was guilty of some immaturity. Then, we know what that was about, and to me, you could say that this is just LeBron, being on the precipice, and so it's safe for him to say it, and all that kind of stuff. But I take him at his word. I thought that was a very earnest statement. I didn't see anything in that moment that felt, contrived in any way. We've seen it with all these guys at a certain point. Eventually, they all start to become a little bit more reflective, a little bit more self-aware, and I think this is a moment where we've seen LeBron, be as reflective and self-aware as he's been. I think it and scorn and all that stuff to get him to that place. Nobody likes being the bad guy, and he said it himself. He embraced that for a while, and then he realized that, wow, that took me to a really dark place. I don't really want to be there. So I think it's real.
Russell Westbrook said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, nothing you guys say makes me happy or sad. And I'm wondering if that's true for these guys, and do you think that we had an impact on LeBron and the pressure he was feeling last year, or is it flattering ourselves to think so? Do you think that the media megaphone perhaps has an impact on what happens on the court?
This is, of course, the best of all possible responses, which is Howard just freezing you out for asking that question. He is not having it right
question.
Now.
Yeah. Just this would be the greatest prank on HoopSpeak
well,
Live.
we all know that he might just pop back in because this is vocal, and you never know. Yeah, at least Howard is frozen in like a charitable position. Like it's been a lot worse the way that people have gotten frozen with like mid talk. So that's pretty good. He looks attentive. He looks friendly.
Am I back?
I can hear him.
He's back, and now as we take him off, he's back. Bring him back.
Bring him back.
All right, do you remember the question?
You're about to start typing profanities. I was about to start typing profanities in the chat box. That was a close call. As I was saying, I guess only to myself, the biggest cliche in the locker room is I don't read the newspapers, I don't read the internet, I don't read Twitter, I don't watch SportsCenter. It's a lie. Even if they don't specifically themselves, they hear it. All these guys hear it, they're aware of it, they know it. Russell Westbrook is really young, so he's still on the stage of, hey, I don't care what anybody says. He hears it, he knows. I don't want to say that means as much to him, of course, as what his teammates think, what his coaches think of.
Oh,
but with fans,
yeah. Oh, see, as soon as you take him off, you can hear him. What the heck?
Oh, man.
Yeah, we can hear you again now. This is so weird. I'm sorry about this, Howard.
I just want to hear Howard Beck talk, internet. Come on.
Is that so wrong?
I blame the Marriott. I blame the Marriott.
Damn you, Marriott! JW!
Anyway, I think that Westbrook, he'll have his time too to kind of reflect on all that criticism, whether it's coming from the outside world, whether it's the fans and media, whether it's from coaches, whatever. He's young. He has to grow too. He has to evolve too. And whether that's making better decisions with the ball, whether that's deciding when to shoot and when to pass, because that's kind of your job as a point guard. All the things that we will criticize, these are real issues. If it's real to us, it's the same. They're probably going on.
Yeah, I'm sure. Before we let you go, I know we've kind of taken up a bit of your time here with this very choppy interview. I'm curious if you think the Thunder have an adjustment to make, or is their adjustment just to play better?
It's hard to say that they need some major adjustment when the series has been decided by 5 points so far over 4 games.
Sure.
They're right there. They're right there every time. And so, it now leaves them open to, well, gee, you shouldn't have taken Russ Westbrook out, for as long as you did in Game 3, or, you should have let Durant play through his fouls, or, any one game, and that was the game. So,
Right.
We can obsess about, strategy, matchups, rotations, all that stuff. Look, they've been right there. And if they make a few free throws in one game,
I think we all got what Howard was saying.
The James Harden usually.
Yep. Yeah, I keep every time I think you're gone, you fly back in with your voice. I'm sorry about that.
JW.
I'm resilient.
All right. Well, hopefully I know you're probably hoping that this series closes out sooner rather than later, so you can get off the road. But all us fans are loving this basketball. It's been great. So for us, hopefully it continues, man. Thanks a lot for coming on.
You got it, guys. And yes, I'm looking forward to going home.
All right, thanks a lot. That was the great Howard Beck from New York Times. Awesome dude and awesome writer. This is a great show. I had a blast. How about you? Maybe we should tell Zach about this.
I did. Maybe we shouldn't, or maybe we should. And if you loved Howard Beck in 3-second snippets, if you love that, or if you like that, then you're gonna love his writing. Because if you're smart enough to get around the New York Times paywall, it's contiguous and you can just read sentence after sentence. So I think that was good advertisement for that full unvarnished Howard Beck.
Indeed. Well, to everyone who's going to be watching tonight, to all our guests, and to everyone who watched this show, thank you very much. Enjoy it, and we'll be back next week talking. Almost certainly, I guess, the series will be over next time we come back, and we'll be talking about legacies, and we'll be talking about the draft, death and rebirth. The NBA cycle of life continues.
Dude, we're going to meet at the draft. I mean, not to, screw up your outro,
it's gonna be
but
fun.
Maybe I'm going to bring a papoose.
Yeah, seriously, no, I appreciate that.
I'm going to bring a papoose on the plane.
I'm going papoose free for as long as I can. All right, well, thanks anyway, guys.
Bye, guys.
And thanks to James and Anthony. Bye-bye.